know, you're all brave souls turning up for church this morning, not because of the weather, not because of COVID, but because you have to listen to this Gospel of Luke. I think it should carry its own health warning or weather warning. Beware, if you read past here, you're going to be troubled and challenged. Blessed are the poor, and woe to you who are rich. It's really quite simple, but it's very uncomfortable stuff. Woe to you who are rich, who are full, and those of whom others speak well. The outlook for you, for us, is not good. Do we really want to be beaten up by these words? Sure, we might be considered rich relatively, but, we give away some of our money and, we help others, we help our neighbour. That makes it all right, doesn't it? And why would we want to be poor in order to be blessed? Well, welcome to the Gospel of Luke. Matthew's version of the Beatitudes, which is the name for this passage, blessed are the Beatitudes, Matthew's version was written more for people like us. Matthew says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who recognise their poverty of spirit, their need for God in their lives. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Matthew's Beatitudes are a little bit more spiritualised and a little bit easier to swallow. But that is not at all the way Luke tells it. Luke's going to make us uncomfortable all year. We're reading from Luke all this year, and kind of every second week we're going to get tripped up. We're going to have the rich young ruler who wouldn't give up his possessions, the rich man in hell, the man who builds his barns full of grain and then dies suddenly, the wedding guest who can't be bothered coming to the wedding feast, and Zacchaeus the tax collector who has to give up everything. Luke in particular always emphasises Jesus' teaching on those who are poor. So no escapes this year, health warnings all around. There is, though, as with any gospel story, things that can help us understand it a little bit more deeply and maybe nuance it a little bit. In particular, the setting of the way this particular sermon of Jesus is set. The way Luke tells it, Jesus has been travelling about with his followers for quite some time, and the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the day, are keeping an eye on him, and prior to today's reading, they've been pulling him up for all the things he does wrong: picking grain on the Sabbath, which is work; healing a man on the Sabbath, which is also work. And the Pharisees, we are told, are filled with fury. So Jesus retreats and goes up a mountain to pray all night. And after this, he selects the 12 from among his followers who are going to be his apostles. They come down the mountain with him, excited maybe, thrilled. He's chosen me, wow. But then as they come down, they see the crowds, and they begin to be afraid. They've already seen the demands placed on Jesus, and they see that he has no home, he's travelling all the time, he relies on the generosity of others, he has no money, no regular food. What about the apostles' families, their businesses? It's a reasonable question to ask. They are attracted to this dynamic man and his teaching, but give everything up to follow him? So Luke says Jesus looks up at his disciples, and the Bible commentators point out that it's kind of more intimate than Matthew's version. Jesus looks his disciples in the eye, and he says, blessed are you who are poor, because you've given everything up to follow me. Yours is the kingdom of God right here, right now. And you who are hungry and worry what we're going to eat, blessed behind your families to follow me, you're going to laugh with joy in this family. And yes, people are going to hate you on my account. They will revile you and defame you. But God's blessing will sustain you. And then he looks a bit further. Over there, you Pharisees standing in the back, criticising and cursing, woe to you. You might be rich now, but that is all you will ever have. Your bellies are full now, but there will come a day when you will hunger. And you might laugh and scoff at me now, but you will weep one day. And woe to you all if you listen to the false praise of these people. They don't mean it. Their ancestors praised false prophets. And where did it get them? Then I wonder what happened. Can you imagine the silence, the mouths open, the Pharisees melting away in the crowd maybe? Or maybe they stand up and talk back to Jesus? And the disciples, what would they have felt? Not so sure they would have felt encouraged. I think they might have felt just a bit more scared. But the trouble with this picture, though, of the disciples in the inner circle being encouraged and the Pharisees in the back row being discouraged, is that it divides people up into one group or another. And we might fall into the trap of saying, well, am I a disciple or an apostle or am I a Pharisee? It sort of feels very either or. Debbie Thomas points out in her blog this week, she says Jesus' sermon is not a sorting exercise between the good folks and the bad folks, like the sorting hat in Harry Potter. Jesus addresses every blessing and every woe to every person. This is the human pattern. This is where we all live. We invite blessing every time we find ourselves empty and yearn for God, and we invite woe every time we retreat into smug and thoughtless self-satisfaction. So she's saying we're both, and we wax and wane between the woes and the blessings. But even Debbie Thomas in her very excellent blog, and I love all her blogs, she's slipping into the Matthew version of the Beatitudes, which make them a little bit more spiritual and a little bit less concrete. Let's remember that the Jesus in Luke is being very concrete and very clear and very bold. He's being a prophet, standing in the tradition of the Old Testament prophets and naming things as they are. And the prophets of the Old Testament always said God had a preference for the poor, the widow, and the orphan. But people had trouble grasping that and always felt if you were poor, you were definitely not blessed by God. So Jesus shocks them into remembering, blessed are you who are poor. God is with you more than anyone else. On Friday, the City Mission staff and whānau walked from their temporary home up in Union Street back to home ground, right next door. City Missioner Helen Robinson declared as everyone walked into the building, "We are home." And it struck me how much the brand new mission building is a living out of Luke's Beatitudes. If the poor and the hungry are the blessed of God, then how can we live out that blessing? We can live it out by being part of the City Mission support crew who provide a beautiful home, not a rundown old building that was torn down, but a beautiful space which any of us would be glad to spend time in. That's how we can live out that blessing. From yesterday, those in need will have been served breakfast in Hayata in the dining room. And from tomorrow, the staff will meet with people who come in need. And then later in the month, or maybe next month, the residents will start to move in. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. That's going to be literally happening next door every day from now on. And so we bravely have turned up today to hear these challenging words. We try to move away from standing with the Pharisees ensnared by their sense of privilege. We try to stand with those who are poor so that we are reminded of our own dependence on God. And we allow the words of Jesus and the words of our liturgy to sit with us. We give ourselves time and space to seek God's Spirit in order to hope that we might be able to live in the spirit of these Beatitudes. So well done for listening to those challenging words of Jesus. But just be warned, next week when we come back, Luke is going to be telling us to love our enemies. So, come if you dare.